Hello, one and all. How are you? Mr. Gumby, Neff, and John? Is the sound okay and the video okay? I got sort of a late start putting everything up this morning, and so sorry about that. Usually I have a little more notice. Hi, Hater. How are you? Ah, Big Sal. Good morning. Thank you, Big Sal. Um, let me. I thought this morning. Uh, Good. It's hard to know sometimes. Early bird. Um, Let me show up. I think I showed just about everybody my orange band from Jean Rousseau that I got for my H. Moser. Really just sort of transforms the whole watch. For years I wore it with sort of a, I think I had a brown or black band on it. Brown goes well with this. And so I thought, well, I'll get a shiny orange one. Morning, Javi. How you doing? Um, Robert, how are you? Hey, Rancher, good to see you. Ah, well, hi, Richard. Yeah, you better believe it. Doing everything I can to keep well. Today is one of those unusual days we get sometimes in the wintertime, and it's sort of like a false spring. And so it's a springtime day, and the high is going to be in the 50s and hot, mid 50s even. And it's going to be really a nice day. And then tomorrow we have snow, but sort of we get like a break for a day. Hi, Stephen. Hater, what's up? Let's see. A King's Day in the Netherlands. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Orange. Okay, doke. I've been getting all kinds of queries about doing a watch project. Oh, I hear you guys are doing a watch project, and I think and from all kinds of places. Hi, Thomas. How you doing? And so, Tim, how are you? So, let me just sort of give you sort of try to get sort of a starting point that I can see. William, how are you? Um, First of all, you have to have what I consider a good reason. I mean, there are a lot of bad reasons. Well, I think there are two good reasons. One good reason is just for the fun of it, just having fun. Let's get together and let's go out and buy anything, and we can put together a watch. Um, the other, to me, the best reason, I think the reason that a lot of us have done it is that it's a good way to afford a top level, a top notch movement in a way that we can get a watch with such a movement in it that we can afford. Uh, like for example, Kari Voutilanen, his watches, I think they're starting around 70,000 dollars now, and that's just that's at least to me anyway. That's sort of not that they're not worth it. It's just I can't afford it. On the other hand, if I could get my mitts on a Kari Voutilanen movement, which I can't, but if I could, for something more reasonable, I mean, when I say reasonable, reasonable to me, something I could afford, and then figure out how to get a case and so on and so forth for it, I could do that for a lot less money. And so some things have happened very, very recently, and they have to do with Crenode. Crenode is a company that was started by Jean-Francois Mojon. Mojon was the watchmaker of the year in 2010. I mean, that's a huge honor. The other people that we've seen with it have been people like Jean-Marc Viderec. Who else? Uh, Kasapi, Carol Forestier Kasapi. She has and a few other ones. I mean, it's sort of like a not only is an honor, it's a rare honor. And the issue, not the problem, but sort of the phenomenon is there aren't too many companies, or there aren't too many top-notch watchmakers who have they'll say, okay, I'm gonna have part of my business is gonna be making movements for other people, but on the side, I'm gonna also make my own movements. A couple good examples of that would be the movement that Marco Lang has was sort of left with UWD, and I mean it's a fantastic movement, and I think they sell for around $4,000 or 4,000 euros, something like that. Which is not, if you can get those watches themselves cost a lot of money. I mean, I think they're now starting around 27,000 or something like that. So 4 or 5 thousand dollars for the movement. Then if you can get the case and so forth, you can get it for a significant savings, yet have the same quality. And that's sort of, I think, the idea. Um, Other companies that have them usually contract with major watch companies like Agenor does with Van Cleef and Arpels and Fabergé and Singer and H. Moser and some of the other ones they do. But they don't have something like, well, let's say ETA, where you can say, hey, I'd like to buy some movements. You can't get that from ETA anymore either. Um, but to get the kind of quality that Agenor has, the one that Uhren, what's it called? Uhren Works, Dresden, UWD, and Crenode, those two. So those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head that you could just say, "Hey, I want something off the shelf." I think that's sort of the kind of thing. If you're really going to go at a very very affordable level, you got to find something that's already been made. Otherwise, there are a lot of expenses to have a movement made for you. So I just thought I'd kick around that and some ideas behind it. The primary reason is that none's making the watch you want at the price you can afford. Exactly. That's exactly it, Rancher. Hey, Flippin' Zippo. Canadian Watch Monkey, how are you? Louis, hi, Louis. Uh, Rainy Montreal. Yeah, we're having sort of spring weather here, so we get a spring for a day. I'm putting together watches this time, ETA based Fortis and ETA. Now, Canadian Watch Monkey, what I wanted to talk about was is is our really good. I mean, from top watchmakers. Actually, ETA does make good movements. Okay, but these are the kind that are way 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 up here. The ones that I'm looking at. Um, in other words, the most expensive thing you're going to put into the project is going to be the movement. Because you can have, oh, I don't know, you can get a lot of inexpensive movements. By the way, too, um, oh, okay, the 22. um, okay, JF Motion Cyrus Company makes interesting pieces. I really like their dice chronograph. Yeah, those are fairly expensive too. I think I know they have some that are around 8,000, which is I think that's not. I don't think that's a DICE, but it's one of their other ones. So the question is how do you start with a first somehow figure out how you're going to get the movement? That's always sort of job one. I mean, and when I say about it, I don't mean once you got a bunch of guys together and saying, "Hey, yeah, okay, let's go out and do it." I'm talking about before anybody gets anybody together, you got to really figure out the logistics of that and what's going to cost you. For example, Oh, Mojon and through Crenode, I think there's if you get 10 people together, you can get one of their movements for I think around $1,300. Okay, that's for a movement compared to let's say your typical ETA or some of the other ones. Not Calypso, but the one that sounds like that. The Getting a tippity top movement is, I think is sort of the starting point. Okay. We talked about the ones you have. So looking at the deals they have, I think from what I've seen recently, Cernode has the best deal, and that was the one that they had, and they have a very interesting movement too. It's a automatic. People like automatics. Uh, Hour, minute, and second, plus the date window. In other words, a very sort of the kind of movement that has a lot of flexibility to it. Some people say, "Well, I don't like date windows." You don't have to. You can put a put a dial on right over the date window. I mean, there are a lot of different things you can do with it. But anyway, so that's the first thing that I think that if you want a really good watch, um, the kinds of stuff to have a name on a watch. I think Jaime Asoka is has some watches that basically he sort of designed the part of the dial and stuff, and those things go like hotcakes for around I don't know what they sell for in Japan, but nothing compared to getting one of his watches like a Tsunami or something. And that's not what I'm talking about. That's basically finding a cheap movement with a name on it. I think there's some other people who do the same thing, and they have the name of a sort of a well-known watchmaker on top of fairly pedestrian movements, and that's another kind of thing that and they you might as well get a cheap I mean, you could go get a cheap watch with the Mickey Mouse on it for all that good that it does. I did not know that Val Fleurier is in the same area as Piaget. They're in Fleurier, I think. The name of the official name of oh, wait a minute. No, Val Fleurier is something else. I'm sorry. That's totally different. Um, yeah, Val Fleurier is the movement maker that Richemont Group has. I don't know if you could get a movement from them. I That would be interesting. Somebody check it out and find out. Hi Truman, Pepsi. Good to see you. Neff, how are you? They give away small hats because the watchmakers' heads are too big for them. I imagine that's exactly what happens, Neff. uh, okay, let's see. Jean Claude Beaver is here. Hi, guys. Okay, do you have an estimate for case production cost for a group project? Depends. Here is the thing, Thomas. Okay, that's probably going to be the major issue. All right. There are several, I don't know if there are several, but there's some case making companies that you can go to. And if you show up with a movement and say, yeah, I like a case for this movement, and they don't have an off the shelf case for it. Yeah, that gets expensive. First of all, there's sort of an engineering design cost, and they God, I don't know. That could be as high as 7 or 8 thousand dollars, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's just for the design of the case. And then depending on how many cases you get, the unit price is going to be more or less. And so if you order 10,000 cases, you can get a pretty good unit price. On the other hand, if you go in with your, buddies who, 10 guys who got a Crenode C102, and then you pay the engineering cost for that, then you pay the unit price for 10 guys. The case could well be more than the movement. I mean, under those circumstances, the The idea is, and this is something that I think is, I've been thinking a lot about this, Thomas, and that is, what would be a way to sort of get some cases that align with, I mean, basically create an off-the-shelf case that say, look, I just got a Canode C102. Can I buy a case? They say, yeah, we got cases for that. Right now, I know that there's this one German company I happen to like a lot, and they have cases for uh, popular ETAs. Now that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to, spend the engineering cost to put together a case for a watch, you might as well, I mean, for a movement, you might as well do it for one that a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's what I want. I've been working on one because of my modest, and I do mean modest skills as a watchmaker. I've been having fits putting it together. On the other hand, there are lots of inexpensive cases I can get from China that'll fit ETA 6498s. That part is the easy way to do it. In fact, what I would recommend, if anybody is thinking of doing a group project, first build your own watch. Get a hold of AliExpress, get a 6498 or clone movement, a dial that goes with the 6498, and then a case that goes with them. And then you can just sort of put them together pretty without a great deal of problems. Here's the thing, though, there's all kinds of stuff that you have to think about. Um, let's talk about the C 102 from Canode. If you take a look at that movement, you'll see that all movements have uh, little holes for the feet, for the dial feet. And so you're going to have to, that's be the next thing is get a dial maker and say, hey, this is what we got. We need a dial with, take a look at this movement and figure out where the feet are going to go. And then if you have like you have on the 102, you have a date wheel. And so that date wheel is going to hit in a certain place. And the dial that goes on top of the movement is going to have that window just in the right place. The same thing, of course, with they're going to need pinion holes for the center seconds and any sub seconds that they have. So those are things that you can get ready made for you. Like I said, if you're even thinking of doing a group project on your own, is that if it's under $100, you can put one together, which is a lot of fun, um, a lot of work, and you got a lot of stuff to learn. But then you're learning about watches, and as a watch collector, that's sort of what we do, isn't it? Hi, Andrew. How are you? Uh, do the AliExpress brand San Martin make cases? I really don't know. Thomas, that's a good question. I go to AliExpress and I'll put in 6498 case, and some different cases come up, and I forgot what the other, and usually it's a 6498 clone by Siegel that I'll get. But that's a lot of fun, and you can learn a lot about watchmaking. And there's this really good English watchmaker, just sort of a cool guy too, because he putting stuff together. And he shows you how to do it. It's not that hard, like I said. The thing, if you do it as a group, you've got to do you have to build a lot of things ahead of time, and this is using an off-the-shelf movement. And like I said, there aren't that many of them. I'm glad you brought up Val Fleurier. That's another one that is, that has that you can buy the movements, but you got to do it in groups of 23. This is a movement I have uh, with it, that this is from Val Fleurier. The problem is I haven't figured out, you know, what I'm going to do for a case and some of the other things. That's another thing too. Val Fourier will provide a case for you. So that's, and of course it'll cost you, but that's another option too. Again, you're dealing with 25 people. I'd much rather deal with 10 people from Crenode, just because it's easier to deal with fewer people. Um, Nothing against that. I think it's anyone can do it. That's the thing, but you've got to go through. You have to go through a lot of preparation, and that's what I wanted to talk about today, is preparation. What you have to do, and you have to look over the horizon as saying, okay, it's easy to get, let's say, 10 guys together. They all kick in $1,300. You go to Canode and say, ship them to us, and and that's that. Um, but then to get the cases, to get the dials, and to get everything else, that is where you don't have them ready made for you. Um, One of the things I've been slaving over for, God, I tell you, must have been working on it for a year. And every now and then I'll just stop and play with it and figure something new out and then go back and do something else. I haven't finished it yet. But what a lot of other movements have done. And let me use the Soprod A10, which is a wonderful movement, very unusual one though, because when they they built it so that it would fit where ETA 2890, what is it, 28, ni- excuse me, 2892 A2s would go. And so that was great because essentially they had the case is ready made for them, and so I could just go and get an off the shelf case. I'm starting to use, there's a French term for ready to wear. I forgot what it is, but those things are really really nice. Hi world, how you doing? uh, didn't we have the same problem with Vaucher watch movement in the early stage of COVID-19? John, I don't know. I'm not sure. Right now, oh boy, right now there are a number of companies in Switzerland that the things can get jammed up through no fault of anybody's. They're still getting, especially with Omicron variant of COVID, going along. Okay, this is planned for here, and this is planned for here, and this is planned for here, and a crucial person over here comes down with COVID, and the whole thing jams up. And that's been a sort of an added challenge that we have currently. But like I said, I think the important thing is realistic planning. Also, too, I found out sort of like the bee, I don't know, somewhere at one time it wasn't true, but the people said, well, bees can't fly. Well, the bee did it anyway. And I think there are a lot of people who have never done jack. I will say, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. Just just go ahead and do it anyway, like the bee who told, oh, you can't fly, and he did it anyway. Uh, there are ways, and it's important, I think, to really understand as much about the process and the project of watchmaking, because let's say you go to a case company. A case company isn't like a collector. They have to make a profit. They have staff to pay. They got, taxes. They got everything, and so if you buy a case, don't expect to get a case at manufacturing price. Um, I mean, our manufacturing cost, not even price. They're going to have a profit, and they should. And here's why: because otherwise they wouldn't stay in business to make cases. Some people don't realize that. Um, but at the same time, while you want them to make a profit, um, they have to do it in such a way that they can maximize their sales. And so that's something else you sort of like figure in some kind of usually it'd be an engineering investment. And by an engineering investment, what I mean is like with a case, they've got to say, okay, this is going to take us, a while to get this thing uh, built and designed and so forth. And that's, we don't do that for nothing. We got people we pay, and in order to do it, we have to charge you for it. Now, the good thing about it is that if you can make what I'll call a generic case. If you can get some guys together and say, look, let's kick in, we're going to get this generic case, and then down the line we can get more once we pay for the engineering, maybe they'll give us a break on the cases until the engineering price is paid off or something like that. I mean, like I said, you have to look at these things not as what only what they can do for you, but what you can do for them. I mean, realistically, not sort of like you're selling junk, but rather like, okay, here we're a good customer, and we understand you need to make money to stay in business, and yet at the same time we have an economic structure ourselves that we can deal with. So let's see how we can put these together. And this is what I've been working on, and trying to find that. Louis, that's right. And I'll mispronounce it, pret-a-porter. And that was the one, ready to made. Now, let me tell you, there's an important reason that I use that term. Um, High horology or olorogy came from couture, high fashion. Okay, so you have people like Dior, Coco Chanel, and some of these other really top-notch designers, and people with lots and lots of money would go and they'd have their one-of-a-kind dresses made. Um, and somebody finally realized, say, wait a minute, why don't we have, someone can go get something off the shelf, off the rack, by Dior or Gucci or one of these famous designers, and that's what they did. And this is essentially the same thing that we're doing, saying, look, um, except we're going to sew together a lot of our things ourselves. Hey, Tuna, how you doing, man? Uh, okay, let's see. First thing is to break your piggy bank. Yeah. What I used to fly, um, the, uh, people say, our flight instructors say, well, the most important thing to understand what keeps an airplane in the air is money, and that's true. Same thing with making a watch. That makes it work. How do you make it tick? Well, money. Um, Okay, next, inquire with the companies before you start. Good point. All of these things, Hater, those are great points. A designer is a must if you're going custom. It'll help with consistency and pricing. Yeah, sometimes they have those. So, yeah, there's this one movement company I'm looking at right now. Not movement, but case company, and I think they also make their own dials. And so if you're going to say, "Hey, we'd like a case," uh, for let's say the Crenode 102, and could you make a dial for us too? Hands are easy. Not they're not necessarily easy to make, but they're easy to get a hold of because you're dealing with a Canon pinion, and I don't know how different they are. I really don't. I sort of suspect they're not too different. Hey Truman, what's up? Washer's base movement is a piece PF 6000 selling to RM and Hermes. Um, I don't, I don't know, Truman. I don't think so. I think they have, uh, I think they have more than one base. I'm not sure what this one is. This is a 5,000 something, and it's got the micro rotor in it. I I really prefer hand wound over just about anything, for 2 reasons. One, I get to play with my watch. That's one thing. But also 2, uh, you don't need to monkey up the movement with a rotor. As a micro rotor like this will help keep the movement thin, and so you have a thinner watch, which is nice. At the same time, though, they're going to take up space, and so you have to have a smaller balance wheel. Every company has their own designers. It'd be cheaper to get your own in the end. Um, okay. Haters point about having your own designer. If you get a good designer, they're worth their weight in gold. They really are. It'll give you a lot more options on that. But like everything else, a good designer is not inexpensive. Watch out for big designer ego. Okay, Rancher, thank you. It's time for me to go. Let's see. Okay, Thomas, I'll be using a 2824 2 compatible movement for my first real project. Uh, LJP G100 has a 68-hour power reserve, same as the SW200. Um, that sounds like a reasonable one. The SW200, it's as a base, it's really done. Yes. And so, anyway, okay, guys. Well, listen, these are things to think about. I mean, it's sort of this is that you can do this too, but there's just sort of it gives you a lot of stuff to do with watch collection. I mean, other than buying a watch and putting it on your wrist and going, oh boy, you could. This is really gives you a lot of stuff. So, anyway, take care. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, there's something else I want to talk about. I read an article recently about why Rolex was so great. And I wanted to take a look at the criteria they use. So if you're interested in that, I'll see you at 4. Take care.